So, how does a nation actually win its freedom? It's not just a story of struggle and sacrifice on the ground. It's also a story of legal documents, of parliamentary acts. We're about to see how decades of defiance in India literally forced a global empire to sign its own dissolution, paving the way for the birth of a brand new republic.
This quote right here tells you everything. This wasn't some public statement. This was the British Viceroy, the guy in charge, privately admitting just how powerful the 1942 Quit India movement was. I mean, to compare it to the massive rebellion of 1857, that shows you just how badly the British establishment was shaken, even as they were trying to keep it all under wraps.
Now, a rebellion like that doesn't just come out of nowhere. It was the absolute boiling point of a demand for freedom that had been simmering for a long, long time. A huge wave of civil disobedience that was about to shake an empire to its core.
The key word here is paralyzed. Seriously, think about that. This wasn't just a few protests. This was a nationwide movement where millions of people just stopped cooperating with British rule. Through rallies, boycotts, and even secret underground radio stations, they brought the entire colonial machine grinding to a halt.
But here's the thing. That huge movement in 42 didn't just appear overnight. Nope. It was built on a foundation of resistance that had been carefully laid over decades.
This timeline really shows you the steady, strategic escalation of the whole freedom struggle. It all starts with getting politically organized way back in 1885. Then it moves to mass non-cooperation in the 1920s. By 1930, you get the legendary Salt March, a direct attack on the economic heart of British rule. See? Each step built on the last, leading to that final, decisive push in 1942.
And behind these movements were just incredible people. Of course, you have Mahatma Gandhi and his whole philosophy of nonviolence, which was central. But the struggle was carried by so many others. Leaders like Sarojini Naidu were right there on the front lines of the Salt March. And during the Quit India movement, when so many of the male leaders were arrested, women like Aruna Asaf Ali and Usha Mehta stepped right up, becoming these amazing symbols of courage and keeping that flame of resistance burning bright.
So, all of this pressure, decades of defiance, it finally forced a response. But that response wasn't going to come from Delhi. It was going to come from London, where the struggle on the streets of India was about to get written into law.
This is it, the Indian Independence Act of 1947, a pretty simple title for a document that was about to redraw the entire map of South Asia. And notice this wasn't some treaty between equals. It was an act of the British Parliament, the empire legally dissolving a part of itself.
The very first section gets straight to the point. With this one sentence, British India ceases to exist and two new nations, India and Pakistan, are legally born. The language is so stark, so direct, and it literally changed the world.
So what did it actually mean to be a dominion? Well, this definition is key. This wasn't some kind of partial freedom. The act explicitly gave each new legislature full power to make laws, and that included the power to get rid of any British law they wanted. This was the official transfer of sovereignty.
And this clause, this is the legal end of the road. Britain formally washes its hands of any responsibility for governing the subcontinent. With these words, almost 200 years of colonial rule are legally wiped away. It's a complete, final transfer of power, all written in the dry, clear language of the law.
But, and this is a massive but, inside that very same legal document was a plan that would lead to one of the most painful and violent events in human history, the Partition of India.
The act ordered the division of two of British India's biggest and most integrated provinces, Bengal and Punjab. Each one was to be split into two new provinces, one for India and one for Pakistan, creating a brand new border that sliced right through homes, villages, and millions of lives.
And this right here just shows the almost clinical, cold-blooded process behind this human catastrophe. The new borders were basically defined by lists of districts just tacked on to the act. The fate of millions of people, their homes, their land, their entire lives, it all came down to which column their district's name happened to be in.
But amidst all the cold legal text and the looming tragedy of partition, there was also a moment of just pure, incredible hope. On the eve of freedom, India's first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, gave a speech that would capture the very soul of the new nation.
Speaking to the Constituent Assembly in New Delhi, Nehru acknowledged the long, hard journey. He was really honest that the Pledge of Freedom wasn't being redeemed perfectly, and that was a clear nod to the horrors of partition.
but the achievement was still just monumental.
This is the line, the one that has echoed through history ever since. It just perfectly captures the profound, almost magical significance of that midnight moment. A nation, held down for so long, finally waking up to decide its own future.
But Nehru's speech wasn't just a celebration of the past. It was a mission statement for the future. He immediately pivoted from the Declaration of Freedom to the massive amount of work that was just beginning, ending poverty, ignorance, and disease, and building a country that would deliver justice for every single citizen.
That speech was both an ending and a beginning. It marked the victory, for sure, but it also immediately set the agenda for the new republic. And so it leaves us with this huge question. That promise, made at the stroke of midnight in 1947, a pledge for a just and prosperous life for everyone, how is it being fulfilled today?